Okay, hello everybody and welcome to our SuperWomen in Tech webinar. We are going to make a start and I'm sure there will be some more people joining shortly. It's our first webinar of 2025 for SuperWomen in Tech, and just a bit of an overview for you if you've not attended one of our events before. We launched SuperWomen in Tech as a platform a couple of years ago, as we wanted to form real conversations and real actions, not just focused on representation, but focused on change across tech organizations for both females in tech and those who support change management. So every month we host in-person and online events that cover various topics that can help you take a next step in your career and make change in your organization. And today, our guest speaker is Christina Papadimitriou, and she is joining us today to discuss the European Accessibility Act, which is obviously coming into play in June this year. But I'll hand over to Christina to give us more information and deliver the main presentation. If you do have any questions, we do have a question and answer box just at the bottom of the screen today. Please drop your questions in, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll ensure that we cover them all. Thank you.
Hello from me as well. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for the introduction, and I'm really looking forward for this session. So as Rebecca mentioned, let's hold our questions for the end, and you can keep them posted on the chat. We will be checking as well as Rebecca. So today's topic is the European Accessibility Act, and in general, how we can include accessibility into our processes. But before we dive into it, I think... Okay, I have the control. Let me introduce myself. I'm currently working as Product Management Director for Public Safety at Atos, but I have been working in the field of accessibility for the past 10 years. I am an accessibility specialist, and I am certified by IAAP CB So some information about me. Oops, sorry. Okay. In the past, I worked as the Global Service Architect for our accessibility services at Atos, and my general focus is on product development, innovation, and patenting. I have more than 15 years experience in telecommunication. My career started as software engineer. I have been working as software engineer for 14 plus years, but then my career evolved. I even worked as product owner, and I'm an expert on HTML, CSS, UX, accessibility, and test automation. One of my passion is patenting. I have 1 granted patent and 3 which have been filed. And I am board member of the Greece.js meetup. It's one of the biggest and oldest tech communities in Greece. So let's start diving into today's topic. Today we will talk about accessibility. So if you're not aware, what is accessibility? With the term web accessibility or digital accessibility, we refer to the inclusive practice of removing barriers that prevent interaction with or access to websites for people with disabilities. And this is something that we need to have in mind as we develop our digital products and services. Based on the W3C, web accessibility means that websites, tools, and technologies are designed and developed so that people with disabilities can also use them. More specifically, people can perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with the web, but as well as contribute to the web. This is also something to keep in mind. So we talked about accessibility. There are different types of disability that is useful to have in mind. So we may have visual disabilities, auditory, physical, speech, but also cognitive disabilities, learning and neurological. For example, people with ADHD or within the autism spectrum are usually those that have cognitive disabilities or neurological disabilities. And as you can imagine, aging-related condition can also be considered as a type of disability, and with the aging of our population, this is something that we need also to have in mind. The kind of disabilities that we have could be something permanent, temporary, or situational. This is a very illustrative presentation. So if we take the example of someone who was permanently born with 1 arm, this is something that is permanent. But if I break my arm, this could be something that is temporary. Or, for example, if I am a new parent and I'm holding my baby, this could be a situational case where I have a type of disability. So disabilities is not limited to the persons with disabilities, but depending on where we are and the situation that we are in, we may be facing some of the challenges that those persons are facing as well. In general, we need to keep in mind that accessibility, and when we are building our digital products, having accessibility in mind, it also benefits other type of people and people without disabilities. People using phones or smartwatches or smart TVs, people that have smaller screens. As we said, people that are older and they have some changing abilities as they are growing because of the situation that we mentioned, or the temporary disabilities. This is something that can help. And also cases where we may have slow internet connection. This is something that we can consider, as well as some advanced users who prefer to use only their keyboards, not their mouse. So when you're building your products and they are accessible, all these types of persons can really get advantage of all this. Some facts. Based on the World Health Organization, we have 4,030 million people worldwide that have disabling hearing loss. 2.2 billion people globally have a near or distance vision impairment. And in general, something which may not be of knowledge to us is that 50% of the world's population live with some form of disability. In other words, 1 in 6 of us may have a disability. The rates are increasing based on the World Health Organization, and it's always necessary to consider accessibility because more and more percentage of our population will benefit of that. So let's talk a bit about the assistive technology. So persons with disabilities, depending on the type of disability, are relying heavily on tools in order to be able to interact with the digital services and products. Different types of assistive technology that we have are screen readers. If you're not aware, screen reader is a software that runs on your laptop or on your mobile device, and whatever appears in your screen at that time, it is played out. It's not only about the text that you are seeing on your screen, but also it plays out what kind of interactive elements you have, like a button or a checkbox that someone needs to interact with. Some other types of assistive technologies are screen magnifiers. These are tools that can really help you zoom into a particular part of your screen. And of course, nowadays we are utilizing speech to text and text to speech capabilities, but all these services started years ago because of persons with disabilities that could utilize them and get advantage of them. And of course, Braille. We have different standards and laws depending on where you are in the world. And in general, what is known is the WCAG. We will talk a bit about it later on. Section 504 and Section 508 are related to US. In Europe, we have the EN 301549, which is the European standard for accessibility and requirements for ICT products and services. And you can also say that, for example, for the country of Canada, we have specific standards, but they also referencing the European standard. We will talk specifically about European Accessibility Act. This affects all EU members, and they need to impose a national law that refers to the European Accessibility Act, as this will take effect on 28th of June this year, 2025. And it ensures that all companies with newly marketed products and services are covered by this act, and they need to make sure that their products are accessible. Similarly, with the European Accessibility Act, there is already in effect the American with Disability Act. So if you're offering your services to the USAs, you need to be aware of that and respect it. And in general, what you need to keep in mind is there are country-specific standards and legislation. So depending on where you're offering your products and services, you should verify what applies to that country. We talked about WCAG. WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and it's developed through the W3C organization. It defines how someone can make their web content accessible for persons with disabilities. It is organized in 4 layers, so they have principles, guidelines, success criteria, and techniques on how to achieve it. So a good starting point if you are developing your products is to get familiar with WCAG. WCAG has the different conformance levels. Usually we are aiming for the AA, the middle one, and its principles are in short called poor because of the initials that based on the principles we need to adhere to these principles. Our content needs to be perceivable. This means that our content can be detected. It needs to be operable, meaning that our content can be manipulated by anyone. Understandable, similarly, anyone can understand and interact with our content. And robust, meaning it adheres to standards. And as you can see here, we talked about these 3 levels. The list is A, must have. Usually we are aiming for AA, which is should have. And 3A, it's very difficult to achieve it. However, the standard describes it and it's very analytical about it. Now, let's talk more in detail about the European Accessibility Act. So, this act is a landmark for European Union because it requires every product and service to be accessible for persons with disabilities. This act puts in place a very robust mechanism so that we are ensuring that we have compliance in terms of the accessibility requirements. And based on this act, every EU member state needs to make sure of that. Regular compliance checks, they provide regular compliance check to the products and services. Complaints by persons are reviewed and followed up. Companies take the necessary corrective actions wherever this is needed, and people know which authority to run to if they have a complaint. As we said, the effect of this act starts on 28th of June this year, and it's the first time within European Union that customers will be able to file complaints before national courts or authorities if a service or a product is not respecting the new rules, and in reality, they are not accessible. Next slide. So what services and products are covered by the Act? I won't go through that, but pretty much it's all products and services that are digital products. And what is very important to recall is that the European Accessibility Act is not only for governmental services, it's for everyone. Whoever wants to offer their own services and products within Europe, even if they are not located within Europe, they will need to respect this Act. Let's talk about how we can adapt our processes in order to be able to accommodate this accessibility new need. Within W3C, you will find many information, lots of information around this topic. I've tried to list it the most meaningful so that you can follow up on them. In reality, as with any change, you need to manage and plan it ahead. So one of the advices that W3C offers, and personally I have seen it also in professional career, it's a good way to go, is by starting the initiation. Start learning the basics about accessibility, the standards and what this requires. Start exploring your environment, set some objectives, start developing your business case. Try to increase awareness within your teams, the development team, your different departments, procurement, HR, and try to gather support. Once you have this initiate state, then you can start planning about it. Definitely, you need to start by creating an accessibility policy, assign some responsibilities depending on which department you are. Of course, you need to determine budget and resources. You need to review your environment and tools. And keep in mind that it would be useful to also set up a monitoring framework so that you can know how you are advancing your adaptation within the process, engage with stakeholders. During the implementation phase, as you can expect, we need to build skills and expertise. We need to start integrating goals into policies. So in this phase, everything starts to become real. You need to assign tasks and support its delivery. And it's very important to evaluate early and regular so that you can adapt. And as you can see, the rest of the items. In the sustaining phase, in reality, what we want is to make sure that what we have achieved so far is not broken. So you need to monitor your products, your websites, your web applications, engage with stakeholders, and keep track of the standards because standards are changing and upgrading. So if your product is compliant with WCAG 0.1, but now we are in 0.2, then you need to make the necessary adaptations so that you don't lose your compliance against the standard, adapt to new technologies, and in general, try to incorporate user feedback as you are improving. Here are more specific tips on how you could start if you have a development organization and you are designing and developing your products. This is more for reference. I don't want to go in detail, but it's important to understand that for each of the phases of your product, designing, implementing, delivering, you need to consider specific aspects, and W3C really is there to help us with this. In general, from my experience, what I would advise is to make your plans depending on phases. Start from something small and build it up. So start with phase 1 with the core functionality that you need to support. Define your components if you are developing your own product. Try to be specific, for example, support SVGs, color contrast, things that are necessary based on the startup. And then as you are developing, even as we mentioned in the previous slides, at the end, always remember to have a monitoring mechanism in place. So even if you have done all the work, keep always an extra phase for adaptation that may come because of the standards updates or of new technologies or changes that you are introducing into your code. And this is more specific about the development process. And my emphasis on this is that you need to include accessibility in each of your phases. You don't have to consider it at the end. Start from the beginning. Once you have your user stories and you're working on your UX concept, do an accessibility review to see, have we considered the accessibility aspects? If not, before proceeding to the next phase, adapt your designs in order to have the accessibility aspects covered. Then during the usability test or during your development, yes, improve them, but including accessibility. For example, in the usability test, you can include persons with disabilities so that you can get direct feedback of how usable your product or service is for those type of persons, of users. As well as testing. In the testing, you should also consider accessibility aspects and adapt based on that, and then be ready to ship it. One thing that I want to underline is that accessibility is not just a feature that you are doing once, you are implementing, and you forget about it. It needs to be part of your processes. It's what I compared with the security aspect. So you want to make sure that your product is always secure, no matter if you are making changes. It's not something that you implemented once and then you are forgetting it. It's the same thing with accessibility. You always need to adapt and have it in your overall process. And every time you are making a change, you are making sure that the accessibility aspects are respected and followed. Before moving on, I want to emphasize what is obvious. I'm talking about the development process and how we are creating products and the services. But if you are within an organization, no matter how small or big you are, this organization is, we have some product management aspects. We can see here some of those: marketing, sales, legal, compliance. Do we need to care about all this? Yes, we need. We need to make adaptations to all the organization aspects in order to include accessibility into our processes. For example, considering your marketing, is your marketing material and content accessible? Can everyone in the web, in the social media that you are sharing, can interact with your content and receive the information of your content? For the legal and compliance, is the legal department ready to understand the implications of the accessibility requirements within each country that you're offering your services? And not only that, can your organization include persons with disability as employees? Do they respect the needs of those persons, even the HR or in customer support. I am a customer. If I have some disabilities, can I reach out and be serviced whenever I reach out to you? So accessibility, it's not about the development of products, but is for the wider organization. And it even comes to the whole organization. Oops, sorry. So we can see here that no matter the function, the division, there are accessibility implications that you need to consider. Okay, but now this challenge becomes even bigger. And how can we cope with that? It feels like we need to make a whole change within our organization. That's why I want to talk about the accessibility maturity model. This is something that is proposed by W3C. We will go roughly around it. However, keep in mind that there are consultancy services out there that they can support you on that, and they can offer their own accessibility maturity model that can help your organization mature through the accessibility challenges. So what is the accessibility model? Based on W3C, the accessibility maturity model describes an overall framework for establishing a robust ICT accessibility program within your organization and identifying areas for improvement in regards with the accessibility. In reality, it is a tool. It is a tool that assesses the current effectiveness and capabilities of your entire organization, as well as subdivisions within the organization. It helps you identify gaps that you need to improve on, and it also helps you identify those steps that are necessary to improve in order to move from one maturity level to another maturity level in regards to accessibility within your organization. And lastly, it supports you, it helps you plan ahead on the next steps that you need to improve in order to be able to progress and mature as an organization with accessibility. In reality, the accessibility maturity model is a structured framework to assess and advance accessibility maturity. And for doing this, you will need to align policies, align your communication, improve your trainings and tools, and consider the accessibility aspects. And everything can be done in different dimensions. Let's talk a bit more about the maturity model. Okay, next slide. Oh, sorry. Rebecca, are you with us? We lost the presentation. Okay, let me see if I can do a screen share on my own. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. So we were talking about the accessibility maturity model, and I wanted to emphasize the maturity model structure. So it is organized around 7 essential dimensions of an organization. And these are dimensions where accessibility can be matured, and we can improve conformance within accessibility standards and regulations. Each dimension has a unique descriptive name with a high-level and plain language summary for what this dimension covers. And it has 2 subsections, the proof points, which are criteria for accessibility maturity supported by everyone. Okay. So I don't know if you heard me. So we talked about the structure of the maturity model, and we said it is organized around 7 dimensions, and each dimension has 2 subsections, the proof points and the maturity stages. So these are the maturity dimensions. We have 7: communication, knowledge and skills, support, ICT development lifecycle, personnel, procurement, and culture. So just from a high level, you will see that it resonates with what I was talking earlier, that we have an organization, we have different departments. So how can we adapt those divisions and departments in order to become more accessible as an organization. You can see here that the maturity model takes into account this dimension, and you can resonate how those are aligned with what we are talking about. So it's very useful, this model. As we said, each dimension has two subsections. One is the proof points, and the other is the maturity stages. So the proof points, each dimension has a range of suggested proof points, and we need to include evidence and necessary measures in order to determine what is the maturity level for each of these dimensions. Progress is achieved if we maintain these proof points in order to describe how we are developing and how we are evolving in order to achieve another bigger maturity level. In general, proof points are evidence-based, and the deliverables of the organization can indicate the maturity stage. Proof points needs to be specific to the dimension they are focusing on. We have an example here. So only procurement maturity is being measured. Only procurement proof points should be evaluated. So this is an example. For some dimensions, proof points are further organized by category. So it's useful to refer to this maturity model in detail because you will get more information depending on the category you are. And what you need to have in mind is that the model allows us to have partially completed some proof points, but these are only for the early stages, and we will talk about those later on. But they must be fully completed, the proof points, for the last optimal stage. And here are the maturity stages. As we said, the model describes four maturity stages: inactive, launch, integrate, optimize. We talked earlier, so for optimize, all proof points must be completed. For the previous, we can have them partially completed. You can see more details here. So, for example, inactive in reality means that your organization has completely no awareness and recognition of the need for accessibility. Maybe some of you can correlate with that, that your organization is at that point. At the launch, it means that your organization has recognized the need, that there is indeed a need for accessibility, and they are starting initially to make some plans, but activities are not organized. It's just at the beginning discovery phase, I would say. Then we have the integrated phase, where we have specific actions. We have a roadmap in place. We have an overall organizational approach, which is defined, and we want to implement it. In the last phase, as you can see, the organization is more mature. We have incorporated the whole organization, the departments, divisions, and we have adapted our processes in order to cover the accessibility aspects. We are consistently evaluated because, as we've commented, it's crucial within this model to understand your maturity that you are evaluating and monitor things and see how you are progressing. So it's necessary to keep consistently evaluating where you are. And based on the outcomes of your assessments, actions are taken. And they're not only one time. Based on the consistent evaluation, you can adapt and you can make the necessary adaptations needed in order to maintain this level of maturity. Here is the template as it is offered by the organization. I don't want to bore you with the details. It was just added here for your reference. I think what is crucial to remember is that in order to achieve a maturity within your organization in regards with accessibility, you need to have in mind that this needs to be a collaborative and coordinated effort. And this affects different departments, and no single department can take the burden and execute it and be done. You need to adapt your policies, you need to adapt your processes, even your organizational culture and the way your management is structured in order to include accessibility. And when you are doing that, we need to underline, do it in a consistent way and in a measurable way so that you can measure how you are progressing, how you are maturing. And look beyond traditional metrics such as audit reports or back counts. yes, it is necessary to have conformance reports or to have your VPATs, but this is just a snapshot. Even if you have a product and your VPAT says that it is AA compliant based on WCAG, it doesn't mean that it will stay like this if you keep adding changes in your product. All these documents are just a snapshot of a specific time. And in general, I think it's very useful to utilize this model because it will help you mature the accessibility within your organization. And the last thing that I would like to underline before we wrap up this presentation is that accessibility, it's not a one-time thing. No matter if you are adapting your organization to include accessibility and make it a more inclusive environment, no matter if you are developing your own product and services, this is not a thing that you will do once and be done. You need to constantly make changes. And this is some last piece of information of how you can do it. I would say assess your need, your team's need, adapt your tool and processes, review them, and keep monitoring for everything that is going as you planned. And with that, I would like to thank you. And I'm open for questions. I hope I didn't overrun our time.
Not at all. Thank you. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Christina. So if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask, now is your opportunity to do so. As I think we have said, we are going to share the slides
Yes.
and full details after the presentation as well to take away. There doesn't seem to be any questions coming through, which means that it was very thorough
I don't think I was so good in
presentation.
presenting everything.
Brilliant. Okay. So if there aren't any questions, absolutely brilliant. Thank you everyone for joining today, and apologies for the slight technical issue, but we will be sending out the slides and follow-up and then a full recording as well, so you can access Christina's presentation. Thank you for joining today's SuperWomen in Tech webinar, and we hope to see you again at the next one. Thank you. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.